Hotep, I'm Ana Yanenga Asante. On March 17, 2012, Malefikete Asante, my husband, and I opened the doors to the Malefikete Asante Institute. Inspired by our visits to the W.E.B. Du Bois Center in Accra, Ghana, we found the vision and energy to create an institution that would serve the education and research interests of the African community. It is an independent African think tank devoted to Afrocentric training, history, and curriculum development. Named for Malefikete Asante, the most prolific African American scholar, the leading advisor to doctoral students in the history of American education, and the founder of the Afrocentric paradigm, the Malefikete Asante Institute for Afrocentric Studies honors the work and vision of a person who has traveled and spoken worldwide and has been recognized as a leading intellectual in the African world. His writings have been called spectacular, and he remains the most prolific African American scholar with more than 100 books and 500 articles. The MKA Institute is located in the historic Germantown neighborhood of Philadelphia, near George Washington's summer White House, Uncle Bobby's Coffee and Bookshop, and the Lest We Forget Museum, in an area of Philadelphia that was the home of Tony K. Bambara, Sonia Sanchez, Bobby Seale, David Richardson, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, Ife Niowu, and numerous other musicians, artists, and Pan-African leaders. Conceived as a library and community meeting place, the MKA Institute has become a think tank where scholars meet, debate, and discuss critical ideas related to the African diaspora. The MKA Institute is dedicated to three overarching visions: research excellence, education centeredness, and culture exhibition. Research. Our aim is to report the work of the best scholars to the members of our community. The Institute has a library of thousands of books collected over several decades. A number of outstanding scholars serve as fellows to the Institute. Education. We hold classes, courses, conferences, and symposia to advance knowledge, advocate solutions, and provide strategies for dealing with political, social, and cultural issues. Teaching Sikam and other African languages. The MKA Institute is an active participant in community education. Culture. We are a historical, social, and cultural institution showcasing and exhibiting the artistic and literary talents of African people. Artists such as Ife Niowu, Whitson Hunter, Richard Wyatt, and Abdias Nascimento are among our permanent collection. The MKA Institute has hosted many outstanding speakers. Committed to an Afrocentric vision, the MKA Institute is a nonprofit 501c3 organization seeking to improve its community, revitalize the neighborhood, and celebrate our youth in the tradition of Malefi Kete Asante. Welcome, and please visit us at our website, themkainstitute.com.
All right. Yeah. Hey, good time. Hotep.
Hotep.
All right. It's good to see y'all. It's wonderful. It's a really, very beautiful, beautiful time. And there are many, many things that we have to say and do. But I just want to tell you, we're so happy to see you and so happy to see those who are also streaming with us online. It's very, very wonderful to be here. I want to thank everybody. You know, sometimes you just have to thank people, be grateful for what you have and what and who you are and how you live. And I just want to thank the board of this organization for their consistency and for their strength and their wisdom. And I want to certainly give thanks to Ana Yaninga for her direction of this institute. This is a institute that is committed to knowledge, to research, to education, and I'm just honored to be a part and to work with the director, Yaninga, as well as the associate director, Dr. Jabali Ade. We are trying as best as we can to educate the community about what's going on and what should be going on. And we are very delighted and happy today to have a wonderful speaker, and I will introduce him in a few minutes. But let me say, whenever I get before an audience, and particularly during this time, it is always important to remind us of some truths. And I want to just remind you that when I noticed in this country, in the United States of America, the other day, that they were trying to get rid of some of the historical figures that exist in this country. They started with the Tuskegee pilots, and then they went to Jackie Robinson, and then they went to Harriet Tubman. Now you can't touch Harriet Tubman in my presence. You know what I'm saying? Our history is unerasable. You know, and I think we need to know that. I mean, I think it's extremely important. Our history is unerasable. And we have always been in this country the standard for moral behavior and ethical direction. I mean, where we have come to in the United States of America has a lot to do with the activity, the organization, the will, and the consistency of African American people. There's no question about it in my judgment. And that's why I keep saying that our history is unerasable. Harriet Tubman cannot be erased. Even if the President of the United States, draped in a white hood, accompanied by his minions with vulture wings imitating eagles, and feigning ignorance of the Constitution which he swore to uphold, calls for the end to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it will not end. In other words, there's nothing wrong with these words. I mean, you got people now in the United States scared to say diversity, equity, and inclusion. We can't talk about DEI. Wait a minute. You can talk about anything you want to talk about. And African people have always understood that. And because the trajectory of this nation, however slow that trajectory has always been corrected by the moral leadership of African people to transcend the moments of forgetfulness as we head toward the guiding stars of justice, order, righteousness in a ma'atic dispensation. We have always been moving in that direction because we've prodded the nation to move in that direction. So I just want you to know that as far as the MKA Institute is concerned, and what we say here, we will not be bullied into using only the words of the ignorant, the uncritical, and the unjust. We're not afraid of DEI or using the word Palestine or speaking the truth about the participation of this nation in the prosecution of the wars in Palestine, Sudan, and Ukraine. We cannot ever close our minds and our eyes and our hearts to the oppressed. We can never do that. That is not in our nature. It is not in our history. So our history, over and over again, I have repeated, our history as African people in this country is unerasable, and we don't intend to see it erased at all. In fact, we will fight to make sure that at least we, our people, understand who we are and where we have come from. We have to do this. I want to just, before I introduce our great speaker, just to say that on the 27th, which is April the 27th, you should mark your calendar. We have the outstanding Dr. Kamika Williams Witherspoon from Temple University, who will be talking about making art, the materiality of the aesthetic. She is a well-known teacher in the theater department at Temple University, and she has spoken at many conferences throughout the world. She is a leading person on the faculty. She's been the leader of the faculty senate. We're just honored that she's going to be with us on April the 27th at 4 o'clock here. Now, in addition to that, we will have on the 27th a short memoria dedicated to Dr. Catherine Bancoli Medina, who passed away a few months ago. The reason we're doing this is because Catherine Bancoli Medina was one of the first scholars to speak in this institute. And not only that, she brought us gifts. When she first came here, she brought us gifts of a painting, gifts of flowers, and she was one of the first Afrocentric scholars to write on the Africological perspective. She edited a journal. She was for years at West Virginia University and then at Coppin State in Baltimore. And we're just going to say a few words about Catherine Bancoli Medina just before we have Dr. Kamika Williams Witherspoon. And then on May 11th, we're having a presentation on Magnificent Mothers. We'll be talking about that. I'll be talking about Harriet Tubman, Mary McLeod Bethune, Ella Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer, Janie Blackwell, and others. That will be on May 11th, 2025. And then on May 25, we have the great Dr. Aaron Smith, Dr. Jabali Ade, who will be talking about W.B. Du Bois, Afrocentricity and the Color Line. And then we have other speakers in June, but June 1st, I just want you to know we have Donald Scott Sr. Donald Scott Sr. has written the book, The Montiers, a Philadelphia Family's Generational Epic. He's an outstanding writer. He's well known as a journalist in this area. And then in June, we will also have, we will be celebrating with the rest of the city and the nation, the Odunde Festival on the 8th. And then on June the 15th, we have here Dr. Malaika Muteri from Kenya, who will be speaking. And then on June 22nd, Dr. Nadav. So we have a full schedule up into the end of June, and we look forward to all of that. Now for the moment. We have actually one of my sons here today, and he is really an outstanding individual. I could not say enough about him. I don't even have time to say everything, but Dr. Hadi Deedat is an associate professor and the current chairperson of social work at Westchester University here in Pennsylvania. He holds a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Ghana at Legon, and he has a master's degree in public health from Temple, and actually he has a master's degree from Widener in social work, and he has a PhD, a doctorate in social work from Widener. He has been, I mean, since I've known him, has extensive work in clinical practice and child welfare. And his current teaching and research focus areas include child welfare, the intersection of, I'm sorry, yeah, thank you. The intersection of actually mental health, family systems, immigrant and refugee welfare, the intersections of public health and social work, and evidence-based social work practice. Dr. Deedat recently developed courses on public health, social work, electives for Westchester University, and has connected the course to the experiential learning in Ghana public health social work study. He study abroad program he's organized. He directs to Ghana and is designed to offer students, especially Black students, an opportunity to expand their knowledge, worldview, and analysis of social and public health practices from an African perspective. I've known this brother almost from the time that he was at Temple University, and I've been honored to just be originally just a friend, and then to be actually like a mentor to him. And I have respected him, respected his family. His family is my family. He's just a gifted individual. And the story, I don't know whether he will ever tell the story, but the stories that he tells and the ideas that he has are ideas that have come not just from book learning, but he's been extremely engaged in the knowledge of social work. But he has also been a person who has experienced many things. This day we are honored. We are very happy to have in this audience this day this outstanding person, my friend, my son, and actually my my good colleague, Dr. Hadi Deedat.
Thank you, Father. I call him my father and my American father. When I came here 18 years ago, I started working in North Philly, and I was a student at Temple. And a coworker, she was my supervisor at the time, said, "Do you know Professor Molefi Asante? Have you heard his name? He's at Temple." I said, "No, because I'm in the public health program, so I don't know him." So he's a professor of African American studies and Afrocentricity. Have you met? I said, "I've never met him." He said, "You should go and meet him." So I got his number from my supervisor, and I asked my supervisor, "How do you know Professor Asante?" She said, "I went to one of his events. He was speaking, and I went there, and he's phenomenal, and I recommend that you meet him." So I took his number and I called him the next day, and he answered right away. I said, "Well, you don't know me, but I'm a student here at Temple. I'm in the public health program. I'm not in your department, but I'll be honored to meet you because of what my supervisor has said about you." He said, "Can you come tomorrow and meet with me?" I was very surprised because in Ghana, we are trained to, respect authority and also see authority figures as not affable, not reachable. Like you can't just get up and get hold of them in a day. But he availed himself to me. He said, "Come on, come and meet me. Tomorrow I'll be available." That's how accessible, flexible, supportive. And since then, it has been 17 years. He has been in my life. This journey with my master's in public health, master's in social work, PhD, he has been a very central person in that whole journey, giving me recommendations, guiding me, advising me. And, even before I took a job as an assistant professor at Westchester, he took me out to dinner, lunch and said, "Hey, I need to really tell you about some things, politics in the academia." And that has stood with me today. He said, "Be careful and watch your back." And especially as a Black man, and not only a Black man, but an African immigrant in a white, and Westchester is a PWI, predominantly white institution. So that advice has really brought me far, to the point that I was elected as the chairperson of the department just 2 years ago. And before I reach out to him and say, I'm going to be the chair, what should I look out for? He said, remember the conversation we had some 6 years ago? Just watch your back and just stay out of the politics, and do the right thing and hold a very high moral ground, and you'll be fine. And I think so far I've been fine being a chair. So thank you very much. Yes. And thank you to my mother too, Anna. I don't know if she's here. Anna is here, but Anna has been great. And I have my wife and two children right here, Lucero and Samantha and Alima. Yeah, they have been my rock. They've really supported me through the whole work and everything. So thank you to them. Yeah. So talking about child welfare, right? We know that here in the U.S., our backs are against the wall as Africans, as blacks, as people of color, and one of the ways that we are pinned down is through the child welfare system. This is the system that is being used to oppress black and brown people in this country. It has really, really been used as a weapon to limit our mobility, financial, economic mobility, social mobility, and all of that. So child welfare is very central, because the system knows very well that if you catch them young, then you own them forever. So what they do is they use the child welfare system to catch black and brown families in this country, pull them, take them into the child welfare system, and just change the course of their lives for the worse, not for good. So that's the presentation I'm going to give today, and talk about how that connects to the mental health of Africans and African Americans and people of color in this country. So I'll give a brief background to the child welfare system. And by the way, my father gave a brief introduction about my work in child welfare. I spent about 10 years doing direct clinical practice in child welfare. So I've served a lot of families of color, white families, you name it. So this is going to be more from very experiential perspective. I've lived it, I've done the work, and so yeah. All right, so let's get started with the background. As of 2021, there were 203,770 children in the child welfare system, or who entered foster care. That is a very significant number to think about across the nation, having over 200,000 children in foster care. But at the end of 2022, the number of children involved in the child welfare system, those in foster care and those who were not in foster care, living in their own homes, but having the government intrude in their lives, that number stood at 369,000. That's almost 400,000. That's a very huge number. But most significantly, Africans or blacks, American Indians, and Alaska Natives overrepresent in this system that we are talking about. Most of the children who are pulled from the families and put in the foster homes or put in the child welfare system are black and brown families. And there are some troubling statistics that we'll be looking at very soon, and see how the disproportionality or the disparity in how African or blacks and brown people are treated by the U.S. child welfare system compared to the white counterparts. We will look at that very soon. But this is the system. This is the child welfare system. So how do we hear about DHS? Some of we have heard about Department of Human Services. We've heard about the child welfare system. But how does the system actually work? So if you look at the top, they just need any suspicion. It doesn't have to be real. They just have to get somebody to report an abuse or neglect. So if a white person drives by and they feel like, okay, you pulled your child the wrong way, that's a suspicion enough for them to call the child welfare people. Yeah. And by the way, the system is designed from a white perspective, number one. So if the white person is walking by and they see you yell at your child for their own good, because of their whiteness, they call the child welfare system. And that's all they need. They will come right away. They will send somebody to come out. They will screen the case. And by the way, the screening is supposed to say yes or no. Should we go out? Should we get involved in this family's life, or should we not? If you are a black or brown person, the chances that they will come, they will accept the case and come to your home or try to intrude into your life, the chance is about 90%. They will come to your house, or they will give you a call, or they will go to school and see your child and talk to your child, even without your presence or without your authorization. So this is how the system trickles down. Suspicion, that's the red one up there. That's all they want, suspected. And how many black and brown people are, victims of suspicion or suspects? Everyone, 100%. If you're a black person, and I was stopped on my way from work just 3 days ago. A cop stopped me, and you know, um, and I was like, okay, let me just remember all the things that have been going on in this country. And I said, can I? He said, do you have your license and whatever? I said, yes, I do. And that was a white cop. So I said, yes, I do have everything. But can I reach my glove box to get it to you before you go after me? Because I feel that I feel surveilled and the suspicion is there. So that suspicion is what leads most black and brown families to end up in foster care. The white person just needs to suspect something from their white lens, from their own perspective, from their own cultural view, and that's it. And then to go all the way down until they can terminate parental rights. They will terminate parental rights of black and brown families. And the chances of that happening, once again, 90%. If you're a black or brown person, the chance that you might even lose your child to the system where you are no longer the parent, but the government will still be charging you child support. They will still be taking monies from your paycheck in the name of taking care of your child. The chances are very high. So the system is already designed against black and brown people. And then we will look at it from a racial perspective very soon in a minute. But let's look at the numbers for now. So if you look at the general population, whites make up 50.5%. This data is from 2021, by the way, so it's 4 years old. 50.5% white children in the US. In the child welfare, they make up 44.37. Non-whites, all combined, 49.5% general population. If you look at the child welfare system, 55.63. The striking one you see here is only black children. They make up 13.71%, but they are 22.75% in the child welfare system. So why? The difference is about almost 10%, 10% difference. And there's a reason for that. Again, go back to the suspicion that they just need to have suspicion, not reasonable suspicion, any suspicion, and they report. And as far as you're a black person, the chances that you'll be pulled into the system is about 90%. Let's look at a little more facts here. These are historical and very troubling statistics here. Over 50% of black children in the US will experience a child welfare investigation before their 18th birthday. 50%. 1 in 2 black children will be investigated by the child welfare system. That's a very troubling number. It means that if you take 100 black people, 50 of them, and we are talking about children, right? We are not talking about adults. 50%. That's a very troubling number. Nearly 1 in 10 black children will be removed from their parents. 1 in 10, 10%. That's a very high number. 10 out of 100 black children will be removed from their parents and placed in the child welfare system. Let us have that sink in for a moment. This is double the rate of white children, meaning for every 100 white children, only 5 will be pulled into the child welfare system. And for every 100 black children, 10 of them will be pulled into the child welfare system. I mean, they will be removed from their parents completely. Not just go into the child welfare system, but they will never be with their parents again. This is going on across the country. And 1 in 41 black children will have their relationship with their birth parent terminated legally. They will never go back to their family. They will lose their family completely. And normally they will end up in a white home. Just go back to the assimilation, right, of Native Americans, Native American children being pulled into, you know, European homes or the white homes, and that they to be enculturated and to be educated and to be civilized. That's the same thing. It's still happening today in very many different ways. The child welfare system is one of the vehicles being used to promote that enculturation, that assimilation, the white assimilation. And it is still happening today. And we can't keep our eyes blind. We can't keep blind to that, because the system is supposed to strengthen families. It's supposed to help families. It's supposed to provide resources. But it is actually a vehicle being used today to divide families, especially families of color, especially Black families. And that's what is happening today. Right. All right. There are more to come on this. Let's look at what it is actually doing to, you know, the Black children who are being pulled. Once they are pulled into the foster care system or the child welfare system, they are more likely to experience multiple placements, meaning they will not be able to stay in one home. They'll be bouncing from one home to another multiple times. And the short and long term impact of this immeasurable. You can measure that from social or from economic, from mental health perspective. A child moving from one home to another, they can form real relationships. They can bond with people for long term because they have to keep going from one home to another. They stay here for 2 weeks, they are there the next week, and they go to the other home and they bounce around. And Black children, you know, more than 50% likely to be moved from one home to another for various reasons, and all that are tied to racism. We will look at that in a minute. They are more likely to experience group care, group homes. So instead of having a mother and father figures, they will not have that. They will be in a group home of their peers and have people who are supposed to be professionals helping them. So where is that nurturing that Africans are used to? We are used to being nurtured. We are being used to having the community raise us, you know, have our backs. But when they go to group homes, they don't have that. They are in, basically, it is another institution. They are institutionalized in that sense. And they are less likely to be reunited with their birth families, Black children, compared to their white counterparts. They will stay in this system for a very long time. There won't be an opportunity to be reunited. The chances of that happening is very small, very, very small. And they are more likely to experience poor social, behavioral, and educational outcomes. Because of bouncing from one place to another, they have to change school districts. They will lose opportunities. They will lose friends. You know, the relationships that they have built, they will have to leave them behind and go from one area to another. That will definitely affect their social relationships. Their behavioral and educational outcomes will severely impacted. That is what is happening in the child welfare system to Black and brown children. Yeah, but they tell you there are some reasons why this happens. Some reasons why Black people or Black and brown people are overrepresented in the child welfare system. They will tell you it's about low income and poverty. And who is responsible for the low income and poverty? The systems, right? The system are already the interlocking systems of oppression, right? They have all come together. You can get loans. If you get loans, high interest rate, you can afford mortgage, a job. You have to fight twice as hard to get a promotion at your job or to get a pay raise and all of that. So it is that vicious cycle of poverty that we live in, and the system has been set up that way to make sure that Black people, brown people are not moving upwards economically. So they will stay poor, right? We will stay poor. We will continue to struggle to make real income to support ourselves and our families. So then we become very, very susceptible to being pulled into the child welfare system. The other one is visibility or exposure bias, because already historically, more Black and brown people are being pulled into the system. So they see us more in the system. So it is very easy to associate a Black person with child abuse, child neglect. Is that exposure is there? And who created that exposure? The system created that exposure, pulling more Black people into the system. So now we become very visible. They see us. Anything happens, a white person can explain their way out, a Black person cannot. A Black parent cannot explain why they made that decision, but a white person can explain and get a top.
That's right.
on the back of their hand, but the black parent cannot. And that's what is going on. And of course, limited access to services. My father was just talking about, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the fact that funding is being cut. And these funding being cut are targeting communities of color. It's as simple as that. They can say, oh, we are taking money from Harvard University, Temple University, all of that. But the goal is not just to do that to affect white people.
That's right.
Taking the funds to affect services being provided to black people. Admission, scholarship, Pell Grant is on the chopping block now. They are looking at taking up Pell Grant. It's one of their services. And actually, there is an ongoing conversation in Harrisburg that there's a chance that Pell Grant will be targeted after this fiscal year, which is probably around October. If they remove Pell Grant, many black and brown children or youth will not be able to afford college.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And what does that tell us? They are talking about poverty and low income as one of the main factors for people being dragged into the child welfare system. So if we are taking Pell Grant, we know that education positively correlates with higher income. So you take the education away, you are taking people's ability or employability away, and that's what is happening today. And geographic restrictions, we know that there are opportunities in other places that black and brown people cannot access. You can, you can move to some areas in America, but there are other areas you can't, just because of your skin color, for being afraid of being targeted. So you are restricted in being in that area with high visibility in the urban community or wherever they are policing us even more. And that's the goal. They want to keep us restricted in one place, and that place is a target. They want to be able to find you when they come there. So that's also another one. The biggest one is the biases. There's a lot of bias in the child welfare system, and I saw this firsthand working in the child welfare system, and how a family of color will not be given the benefit of the doubt. But the white family always receives that benefit of the doubt. The white parent receives the benefit of the doubt. That, oh wow, the child couldn't go to school because they didn't have food. I believe that. I believe they didn't have food. But the black person says, my child skipped school today because I couldn't afford food for them. That is not a good reason. But it is a good reason for the white family, for the white parent. So that is that. There's a lot of bias in the system. And it's a racial bias that I'll be talking about a little bit. As you can see, the next point. So there are those personal biases, but they are intertwined with racial bias. It's personal biases, but very connected to race. And the system predominantly white. The child welfare system, workers, case workers, predominantly white. You go to black community, they are the ones investigating cases, and they come to a black home or a black family's home, and they want to see the things in that home should be all white things, or the things that they believe, the type of food they eat, their culture, their music. So they come and hear the hip hop, and oh no, this is a problem. This house is not good because they're listening to hip hop. They have to be listening to whatever the white person listens to. So there's a lot of that personal and racial bias in child welfare system. And later we'll be talking about how we can tackle these. So there is a way, and there are some things happening today that we all can lend our effort to change this system. It has been around for centuries, and it is time to really overhaul it. It is time. Yeah, so let's just look at racism. It is alive and well in the child welfare system. And what people get confused, or they don't even understand, this is child welfare system. Child is supposed to protect children. It's supposed to support children. So how can they be racist? How can they be racism in a system that is supposed to protect children? That's supposed to really strengthen families. But it is really alive and well. As you can see here, the intention is to strengthen families, to keep families together. Of course, for white families, to keep them together. If they are struggling, they can afford food, they can afford, shelter, they can afford clothing. maybe they will get a voucher, they will get something to provide food, shelter, clothing for the child. That's what the system is supposed to do, strengthen families. But what we have come to find out is that it is intended to support white families, not so much black families, right? Um, and policies and legislation. We all know about Jim Crow laws and all these, oppressive laws and policies. Child welfare is not any different in the child welfare system, a system that's supposed to protect children. Actually, they have historically centered around whiteness, as I mentioned earlier. The laws that have been made are from Eurocentric perspective, European. The laws, the policies were developed by the white people like some 200 years ago, and those same policies are what are, like binding the system. So it is troubling and it is real. It deprives the policies and legislation deprive black families of adequate services. Again, DEI is being taken away. Funding cuts. The city of Philadelphia, we know summer comes now. There used to be swimming pool in the neighborhoods. There used to be, after school programs for our children. Today, all those are being taken away due to funding cuts. Where are the cuts coming from? The city will tell you that they are not getting that money they used to get from the federal government anymore. So they have lost revenue. And for that reason, they have to close some libraries. They have to close some parks. They have to close some swimming pools. And what happened? And these are being closed in predominantly black and brown communities, not the white community, not the suburban and the rural community. They actually building more swimming pools, putting more, infrastructure in the rural communities, in the hinterlands, but not in the urban communities where it is predominantly black and brown. So it is happening. And there's also increased surveillance. Again, they are watching you. A white person just needs a suspicion. They just have to suspect one thing. And they will call the child welfare system. And the next thing you know, they are knocking on your door. That is the surveillance. And they criminalize poor families. And who are the poor families? Black and brown families. It's historical because we know our ancestors came here and they worked for free. They worked to enrich the white person or for the white person to enrich themselves. And now we are all feeling it today, right? We have to work 3 times, 4 times as harder to get the same credit score as the white person, right? So these are there. They criminalize poor families, and those poor families are the black, brown families, and that's us. So there's more to be done, but we just talked about blacks in general, black children, brown children, but girls, black girls are at even a higher risk. So black boys, black girls pull into the system, it happens. But the girls are at an even higher disadvantage, higher risk. Because again, racism plays a big role in that. Black girls are perceived as more adult-like. So they see them as, just like black women, black pregnant mothers, are seen as not having pain. They don't feel pain. They don't have pain if they go to deliver. Not then. I mean, yeah. It's the same as for our black children. They are seen as adult-like. They don't need nurturing. They don't need protection. They are blacks. They can take care of themselves. The system, there is still that belief in the child welfare system. Yeah. And this adultification affects how the policies are being made, and child welfare providers protect and serve black families because they see our children as adults. Like, they don't have the same pain. They don't have the same pain level. They don't have the same suffering as their white counterparts. And black girls are seen as needing less nurture. I've already mentioned that. But yeah, less comfort. If they are crying or if they're in pain, oh no, they will be okay. Yeah, they are blacks. They can tolerate pain. They can tolerate the maltreatment. And that's the system believes in that too. Yeah. So if we can go back, and I think you've heard it here at this institute multiple times because my father would say that over and over again. During the slavery times, right? Black women seen as hypersexual, boisterous, aggressive, and unscrupulous. It is the same thing in the child welfare system. Black children, girls, but the black girls are seen in the child welfare system as hypersexual, as boisterous, aggressive, and unscrupulous. You know what that means? It means they need no protection. They don't need any comfort. So black girls are even a higher risk of being pulled into the system. And we know, at least I know from Ghana, born and raised in Ghana, that the woman really holds the home together.
That's right.
So if they are treating our girls like this,
That's right.
they are treating our homes like that.
That's right.
And they are treating our generations to come like that. So they target the girls, they target everybody. So educate a man and you educate a person. But educate a woman, you educate a whole generation. And that they know that. They know if our girls are able to be educated, are able to be protected, become financially sustainable or strong for themselves or become independent, then they will raise children in a way that they will not end up in the child welfare system. So let's target the girls so they will fail. And once they fail, they will have children and they will not be able to protect their children, take care of it, and then we can pull their children into the system. That cycle of racism is alive and well in the child welfare system. Yeah. And it all connects to mental health. So this happening, black child is being seen as hypersexual, boisterous, unscrupulous. They don't deserve comfort. They don't deserve protection. That really affects how they think, how they feel about themselves, and how they go about their lives. The mental health impact of the child welfare system is immeasurable. We can measure. Number one, the moment a child is taken away from their home, that is trauma right there. No matter how bad their parent was,
That's right.
they probably still had a sibling that they really care about, or a sibling that they really love, or a sibling who really loves them. Now, you don't only take them from the parent, you take them from their siblings, you take them from their community, from their extended family, and put them in a very different environment, different home. That is traumatic enough. And trauma lives, it can live for a very long time if it goes unaddressed. And that's what is happening to our black children. They are being pulled from their homes and they would deal with that mental trauma, including anxiety, depression, post traumatic stress disorder, and so on. And they may have to live with this, grow with that. And it has very long term effects, long term impacts. And it will become a cycle that they will pass this on. And we know about generational trauma. We know our ancestors dealt with a lot of trauma, being pulled from their homes in Africa, being put in the ships and sent over here. They dealt with a lot of trauma. And those historical generational traumas are still real. Black and brown communities are still dealing with that. And child welfare is only making it worse, the child welfare system. Now they are targeting our young ones, taking them away, traumatizing them, and then it will be a cycle to go on, and they will have children and their children will have to deal with the same trauma over and over again. So the child welfare system is a vehicle for traumatizing African children, black children, brown children in the United States. Yeah. And the rates are very, very incredible. The numbers are very startling when it comes to mental health services or the mental health impact of the child welfare system on black and brown people. And here are some numbers. So 1 in 4 youth will be involved with the juvenile or criminal legal system within 2 years of leaving foster care. So first they are pulled into the system. The system gives them these services that do not even match their needs. And they say, oh, you are fine now, you can get out. As soon as they get out, within 2 years, they will end up in jail, prison, or they will have some contact with the law, the criminal justice system. And we know what happens after that. It comes on their record. Hard to expunge. Now struggle to find a job. And it is a cycle. By age 17, over 50% of youth in foster care will have experienced an arrest, conviction, or overnight stay in a correctional facility. 50%, 1 in 2. And we have already mentioned that black and brown children are overrepresented in the child welfare system. So if half of those children or youth are having contacts with the police or serving, correctional, being in the correctional facility, that is black and brown people we are talking about. They are the ones. Yeah. So there is that foster care to prison pipeline, and it is real. The system is supposed to foster children, it's supposed to help families, it's supposed to strengthen families, but actually it is serving as a pipeline to the prisons. They get out of foster care within 2 years. They have a contact with the police, or they go to prison, and then it becomes a cycle. So, child welfare system is supposed to be helpful. It's supposed to protect children. It's supposed to strengthen families. But now it has become a pipeline, to prison. Very troubling. Yeah. And we are saying this, but the focus is mostly on the Black youth. Yep. So not only Black or brown children are in foster care. Of course, we looked at the numbers. 44% are white. But the most targeted group is the Black children, Black youth. They are the ones being targeted most by the system, and they are the ones who will most likely end up having interaction with the criminal justice system, because the system has been set up that way. All right, so let's look at some of these numbers. As you can see, we are looking at patients who were admitted for psychiatric disorders, the general population or the general patient population, versus patients who were in child welfare. So when we talk about child welfare today, we have to associate it with Black and brown families, because they are overrepresented in the system. Mood disorders, patient, general population, 28.6%. Child welfare population, overrepresented by Black and brown children, almost 70%, will experience some mood disorders. And the numbers go on and on. Like, you look at anxiety disorder, there's no one category here where the general population or the general patient population does worse than the foster care or the child welfare system. So the child welfare system is just a vehicle for oppressing mentally, children of color, and taking away their freedom and their rights, and of course they'll end up with these mental health issues. Is the system. But how do we respond to this? We know that mental health and the prison, the foster care to prison pipeline and all of that, they are just setting up these children to fail, to fall through the cracks and to have a very troubling future. So how do we address that? There are ways that we can do that. Let's start with what we can talk about as far as reform, right? The system is there. Can we reform it? Can the system reform itself? If the system wants to reform itself, the first thing they will try to do is to understand and address the impact of individual biases in reporting, investigating, and intervention, and placing children in foster homes. There's so much biases in this, and they have to look into that. But they haven't done it. They haven't done it for almost 200 years, so they are not going to do it. They are not going to do it, right? Yep. Similarly, the system can develop culturally responsive practices by recruiting and retaining more foster families of color. So they bring more foster families who look like the children being taken into the system. So the children can at least relate to people, culturally. Like, okay, this person is Black, I'm Black. Maybe we share some things in common. We might have the same food that we like. We might have the same, practices or things like that. The system can do better by recruiting, and also recruiting mental health and child welfare professionals, Black and brown, more professionals. But the system hasn't done that, and they are not doing it. They're not going to do it. No. Yep. They are not doing it. I went there. I worked in the system for about 8-9 years doing clinical work with the system, and I saw for every one Black person or brown person they will hire 4 white people. Yeah. So, but the families that we were seeing were predominantly Black, but the workers predominantly white. So that is there. But the system will not change that. The system can also engage communities of color. Come to places like this. Come and work with us. Come and work with this institute and see how we can support families so that the children are not being pulled from their homes and placed in foster homes. But the system is not going to do that. The system is also now using the real data. Real data is not suspicion. Suspicion is not data, but that's what they use. The system only uses suspicion to take your child away. They just need to suspect, and they will take your child away. So they are not doing that. So today, there's an opportunity for the people to really, really try and change the system. And there is a movement going on across the country. It's called the Upend. Started in Texas. This guy called Dr. Detlef. He's white, by the way. He worked in the system and he hate the system. And we know there are a few white people who have that common sense, right? That this is not fair from a very human standpoint, not racial, not color, not creed, just human. And Detlef, Alan Detlef, he is a professor. Recently, he was a dean, and they kicked him out because of his beliefs and his promotion of DEI. Yeah, University of Texas, Houston, University of Houston, actually. Yeah. So he is one of the proponents, supported by a lot of black professionals, professors, academics. They are all throwing their weight behind this upend movement. And what the upend movement is trying to do is not the reform. They say it has been 200 years and there hasn't been any reform. So now we want to abolish the system as it is today. And we think that is the only realistic way of making sure that there will be some real change and black and brown families will not be the target of the system by abolishing the system. We've given the system the benefit of the doubt to reform. They are not doing it. So I am actually a member of this upend movement. I mean, I submit, I attend webinars, I participate in events, and the goal is that we want to completely overhaul the child welfare system, including abolishing it, so that black children can stay in their homes. They can stay with their families of origin and get the right training and do not get that traumatized the way they are today. So that is there. But whilst we are waiting for the abolition and we are waiting for the reform and stuff like that, we still have services that can help us. There are some resources, and these resources, they are evidence-based. They are in our communities here in Philadelphia. So if you find yourself or you know a family member, any black or brown person caught up in the child welfare system, one of the easiest way for them to fight back the system and keep hold of their children or their child is the community legal service. It's free. But many people don't know that. And then the system will just, toss you around and run you around and run you crazy. But there are services here, including the community legal service. There's also the Philly Families Can. It's free service. It connects pregnant, individuals, new parents, and families with young children to voluntary home visiting, and they will send somebody that can relate to you. This is a very culturally competent service. So they're not going to send a white person who doesn't understand your culture to come home and teach you how to breastfeed and do all this. But there is a Philly Family Scan, which is another resource. And DHS Parenting Collaborative, we have the Parenting Action Networks. There are more services here that definitely to be here. The Institute will have it available. Those of you who will need it, give it to your family, your neighbors, your, black and brown, families that will need some type of support to make and fight back the system. These are the services that they can really utilize. And with that, I want to open up the forum for discussion.
So we do have time for a few questions for our speaker, Doctor.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Philip Jefferson. Okay, yes, my question is, when looking at the statistics of the children that's in the welfare system, do you have any information or any ties to how it ties into where they're at in the public school system? Like, is there a connection between children that are in our child welfare and the special education classes in school, or classes that are considered to be remedial or challenged and so forth?
Yeah, great question. I have a mic here, so yeah. Thank you. Great question, Mr. Jefferson. Yes, absolutely. There's a connection. If you go to these public schools and many of our educational institutions, they have who they call guidance counselors. They have nurses, and predominantly they are white nurses, white guidance counselors, and they are the first to report the families to the child welfare system. So the child comes and say, "Yesterday my mom beat me, or my mom slapped me." Yeah, they report it right away. They call themselves mandated reporters. They are mandated to report on suspicion, just based on a slight suspicion. So yes, there's a real connection. Actually, they get more reports from schools than anywhere else, and those calls are from the guidance counselors and the nurses, and they are predominantly white, work in the public systems too. Yes, so great.
We are members of the Association of Black Psychologists, so we can relate to what you're talking about. Two questions. Child abuse, how many in the Philadelphia area? And can you tell us anything about the international adoption of our children?
Yeah, great. So child abuse in Philadelphia. Last night I was actually looking at the statistics. Overall, Pennsylvania doesn't even fall in the top 10 across the country, but still has a very significant number. I was surprised to see that Delaware as like the fifth country. California is number one when it comes to the representation of children in the child welfare system. Pennsylvania is not really in the top 10, but the city of Philadelphia will rank very high. I don't have the number yet. I can do more research on that. Absolutely. So that's a great question. International adoption, again, we know how China is fighting back. Like they don't want their children to be adopted and brought to the US. Russia is also fighting, but they are still adopting children from Africa and Haiti and the black countries. And what is the goal here? They bring them to just pretend like they really care about black people or they love black people. No, at the end of the day, these black children, at the slightest mistake, will end up in the child welfare system. Even though they were adopted, they will still be pulled into the system. So there is that. We know the adoption is for very parochial reasons. They do that just to appear that they care about the black race, or they really believe in equality, equity, and all of that. They don't. They are still looking at the child welfare system can do something by taking the child away. If they can afford to take care of the child, they will hand the child over to the child welfare system, causing more mental trauma for the child. Yes, that's a great question, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. As a mental health worker for over 45 years, who was a teacher in health start programs in Delaware County, my question to you is, I got about three questions, but one would be on the continuation and the destruction, genetic, social destruction of the Black family. What is it that you see that we can do for the parents? Because they're the ones that got all the questions, but never get no answers. And being a person who was there watching all this, I couldn't give them diagnoses, but I can tell them behavioral concepts. That's one. The second one is, that might be the last one, the DSM. What is your opinion on the DSM?
Yes.
Because it is destroying how we're being looked at. Our children is being diagnosed with behavioral concepts that's European viewed, and they're giving our kids all these pharmaceuticals and it's capturing them at a younger age. We can't get them to hear us, to respect us, because their minds are all over the place. And all it is, and from what I'm watching, I had children in my groups that were very active. And I know our genetic base don't just lay around and don't do nothing. We're very active as children. the children is considered hyper, and they diagnosed with that diagnosis, and it slows them down. And when I had them in groups or in the classroom, they're in their sleep. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So with that, what is your concept or your opinion on that DSM, which is worldwide?
Yes.
And how can we get our parents more involved in doing this change in the system? Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Great questions, by the way. And I'll start from your second question about DSM. I hate DSM. This DSM diagnosis manual, something, and I'm missing the middle, the S, mental health, disorders. Yeah. So the M stands for manual, and the D stands for diagnostics. What is the S? Statistical. And I haven't used this since 2017. 7 years now? Since I graduated with my PhD. When I was doing my PhD, I was being trained at Widener to use DSM. I have the book. I haven't opened it since I graduated from Widener with my PhD, because that's how much distrust I have for the DSM. It is very Eurocentric. It is very white focused. It was prepared by the white mental health community, which doesn't really take into account our culture and our perspective. Like when I say our, I mean the Afrocentric or the African perspective, the African, culture of raising children and understanding our own children. So DSM is very white. And to answer your question, I personally don't use it and I don't believe in it. And there are many questions around it. I know other, even non-Black practitioners who question the DSM and say, how can you add this and that and make a conclusion that the child has depression or anxiety or psychotic disorders? How do you just draw that conclusion? Because every individual is so unique and different in their own way. But the DSM is that one cap fit all. And I don't believe in that one cap fit all. So, and I think many practitioners of color like myself don't believe in the DSM. So I don't believe it. And if I see anybody using it, I might not use their services. They have to work with me from my cultural perspective. If I go to a therapist, I want to go to a therapist who understands me from my cultural perspective. DSM doesn't do that. It doesn't take into account culture. And that's why I don't believe in the DSM. So excellent question. The other question about parents. How can we really help parents? Because they are at the forefront of all this fight. Education, 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 like what we are having today. We talk about many things and then we end up with these services. We pull them and give them the resources. We have to show them where the resources are. We have to really disseminate this information in community settings like this. So a brother, a sister will be here, they'll hear that information, they can pass it on to another person, another sister, another brother. And that's how we spread the word, so that they know their legal rights and they know what services are available to them for free. There should be many free services. These agencies are getting money, grants for free from the government. And I think that we have to really hold them accountable by utilizing the services for free. And that's one way of really getting the parents, to get this, to be able to know their rights and know that nobody can just show up that they're pulling their child away. So we have to connect them to these services and we have to provide the services. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that I'm so happy to be back. And I have been absent for a couple of months. I'm a regular attendant of the MK Asante Institute, and I really appreciate, all the support that I get from the Institute and also from my family. And I'm so happy to be back. So as a new dad, I have to be a little bit worried.
Yeah.
Especially about what I heard about what you said, and also then I'm afraid that my child might be taken away from me.
Yeah.
So I saw this practically when we go to any appointment, and then we go there and sit in the lobby, and then some people will come out and then they will say that we need to see the child. I said, it's okay to come and see the child, but is it a genuine love or maybe reality that you want to see the child, or there is something behind that? And I think you gave the answer about suspect. So they want to suspect anything that might happen to child, and then your child can be taken away. So I didn't know that, because we go every 2 weeks in a doctor's office, in a clinic, and then we get that kind of intervention, and very serious intervention. So then now also I'm worried about the discipline. How, like, I know the system was not designed to incorporate our African or Black cultural values, so that the discipline goes in line with our cultural values. So I don't know whether there is any possibility or other ways in which we can discipline our children the way we have been raised, and discipline that are not, contradicting the system, or the system is just designed, either you have to follow what we design, and then regardless of your cultural values that you have, and then being oriented in a way that fits to their cultural values. It's very critical. I didn't know this unless I became a dad, and then now I have to look all this kind of information. Otherwise, we will have a family that broken apart and all kind of things, and then this is completely, opposite of what our cultural values, inform us and taught us, and also teaching us every day to stick on those values. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's a great question. And you made a great point here. They give exception. In Pennsylvania, they have what they call exception to abuse. And one interesting piece, they don't mention culture, like my brother just said. Culture is not one of the exceptions, but religion is one of the exceptions. Like if you refuse your child, they call something Munchausen syndrome by proxy, where your child is sick, or you say, "Oh, I'm not getting this blood transfusion for my child because I don't believe it. My religion doesn't allow blood transfusion, or doesn't, it's not good." And they will allow you to not do blood transfusion, even if the child gets really sick, and you will not be found guilty of abusing your child. So religion, that one, you get a pass. But your culture, if you use your culture as a reason why you don't practice a certain white practice, that is not excusable. So yeah, that's not a pass. There's no pass for religion, but there's pass for no pass for culture, but religion, of course, they have a pass for that, and some other few per se exceptions that they have. But very interesting. When I became a dad for the first time 9 years ago, I felt the same way. I'm from a culture where I had to listen to the elders. I had to listen to anybody older than me. They could correct me if I was wrong, and it was okay. And I think it served me very well. It really kept me very disciplined, and also appreciate my community and my people. And then I had my children here, and now I have a 9-year-old and 7-year-old. They were just sitting there, and they go to school. And when I need to discipline, I discipline them appropriately, to correct them, to make them, to show them the right way, not punishing them just for the sake of punishing them. No, but being measured in what I'm doing. But then I'm also worried about them going to school, and the guidance counselor or the nurse asking them questions like, what happened to you yesterday? I don't know, all of that. So I also have to have that at the back of my mind. So my brother, I think that is the conundrum that you will continue to struggle with until we abolish the system altogether. Until we abolish it, we are going to be torn between that, what is the best way, the right way, the culturally appropriate way, and what the white people want me to do. And when I say white people, is the system designed by the white and serves the white.
Yeah. Okay, one last question, I think.
Okay, thank you. I'm Olani, and I'm wondering about something that's very serious. How many people who are Black, young or not young, believe that they are disabled? Not just physically, but mentally.
Yeah. That's great. So disability is also one big topic. A number, how many, I can't even tell you. And I'm glad that you mentioned disability not only from physical standpoint. Disability can be cognitive. It can be in many ways, right? People can have disability. And I think that the number, we can have a true number for this because they are misdiagnosed. First of all, we were talking about DSM. right? So a Black child may struggle with something other than disability. It is not a real disability, but they are diagnosed with ADHD, right? So now the number is, not real, because so there are no real numbers when it comes to disability, because they are using tools that do not even take into account cultural differences or cultural beliefs and stuff. But I think either the numbers are over estimated or underestimated, somewhere between. But yes, of course, disability is huge, and it is one of the main causes of child abuse in this country. When a child has a disability, the chances of them being abused is very high. And disability is defined again. This DSM will give you a whole different disability. So great question. I wish I had the number of how many children are disabled, but it is hard to even put a finger on that number.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's so fitting. It's so fitting that Brother Adeyemi asked the last question, because it's his birthday, right? That's all right. So okay. So right. So it's very. All right. Good to see you. So anyway, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful, informative. I mean, heavy, deep discussion. Brother, only you could do this. So thank you so much. We're just so proud of Brother Hadi Deedat, and Brother Hadi is, as I said, is the chair of the Department of Social Work at Westchester University, and he is a wonderful, wonderful scholar and professor. And there's much more to say about him, and hopefully as he comes more and we see Lucera and Alima and Samantha, we will always know that they are here and with us. So thank you so much. So happy to see Brother Tugu back, and we will be talking to him. So we need to have him to talk to us on Sudan. We haven't had that conversation in a long time, and so we'll be looking forward to that. Thank all of you. If I've missed anything, please let me know. But I do want to remind you, on April the 27th, Dr. Kamika Williams Witherspoon will be here, and we will be celebrating the wonderful Catherine Bancoli. Did Brother Reginald get here? Brother Reginald, stand up. Brother Reginald, this is my neighbor. Brother Reginald, Dr. Reginald Banks. That's right, Dr. Reginald Banks with the Dunbar Mental Health organizations. We're very, very happy. He's one fine brother, and we're just really happy to have you come to be with us. I think that's all. We call upon our ancestors far and near, the mother of our mothers, the father of our fathers, to render mercy and to bear witness for the liberation and the victory of all oppressed people forever. It is done. Ashe. Ashe.